this was like, I think a few years back when I was going through this existential moment. When are we not having it? But anyway.
First thought, when are we not having an existential moment? Hi, welcome back to episode 5 of Bonbons and Bonbon.
I'm Wintrice.
And I'm Maryam. And we're here today to talk about high quality friendships versus low quality friendships. So, some updates.
Life update. I have said goodbye to an 11-year relationship. Professional relationship, that is. Yes. So, very big step. The road in front of me is kind of unknown.
Yeah.
But it's exciting. It's scary, it's exciting, so I'm excited about the road ahead.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm very excited for the new ventures that you're bringing in. Especially Lunar Communications, which is what's producing this podcast.
Win still has a lot of inner work to do with regards to talking about the things that I want to do in my own business, and that is a journey that I'm going through right now. But I'm very excited about the communication consultancy that I'll be doing.
I'm really excited for you and to see where that goes, especially because based on some of the projects that you're talking about, I feel like there's so many things that can be open for you.
It's nice to have friends and cheerleaders, supportive cheerleaders to just hold my hand as I walk on this journey.
So speaking of supportive cheerleaders, we have been very grateful to all of the people who have been listening,
tuning in,
or watching or watching the podcast, and also I have been very grateful, and like both of us, I think we've been sharing all of the little bouquets or bonbons that we've received from everyone who's tuned in and who's resonated with the stories that we've shared, and who've shared their own stories with us. And I feel like it's so special to have people tell us those stories. And I feel very grateful to everyone who's listening. Thank you.
I think it's very cool when people oh my god, then a certain topic in the episode resonates, and they're like, yes, and then they start talking at length about their own experiences with their own friends, and then you're like, oh my god, you see, that's why we're doing this, it's so fun, and evidently our friendships take up such a big part of our lives, and I just think the way we learn and play with life. I think that's an important part of it, and it's also given me a lot of points for reflection on the topics that we want to talk about, or the kinds of events that we might want to do with the podcast and with the people who's listening. We're very excited for some of the plans that we have. My own life update is that we launched the podcast. My professional website is out, thebreathexpense.space. I also turned 37, and thank you for celebrating with me. It was such a blessing to have all of the little celebrations and meetups with various people when I turned 37. Prime number.
Is it? Oh, okay, 37.
Isn't it?
Yeah, 37 is a prime number. Yes, it is. Yes. Only divisible by 1 and itself.
Yes.
Is that the definition?
I don't know.
Mathematicians, please get in touch, because I do like boys who like math.
Okay, another plug.
That's
her IG handle can be found here. No, okay.
So,
But okay, how do you feel about turning 37?
Actually, I think one of the things I wrote in my journal as I turned 37 was that it felt really good to be living. It was just I woke up and I was like, oh, this feels so right.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And I feel like I have it. I'm not sure that I've felt it in that way before, or quite so powerfully. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, it feels really good to be in this body at 37. Yeah. I mean, it's been a year, but it's been an interesting year, I would say.
Yeah, as in because knowing
what
you've been going through, and the highs and the lows.
Yeah, and I feel just like overall, it's been such a big growth spurt. But I feel a lot more present with like whatever I have going on, and I'm like my I guess my framing of like a lot of things have also shifted. Yeah, and like I feel very grateful for that, and I feel very grateful for all the people that I have around me.
Back to the topic of today, high quality friendships versus low quality friendships. So for you, what is a low quality friendship? How you define it?
So I guess let's start there, right? I think low quality friendships are friendships where you don't feel fulfilled, right? Or like the dynamic doesn't really work for you, and you can't really maybe say why. Or you might already identify why, but it feels like difficult to move out of that dynamic. Yeah, so that's like low quality friendship. In my terms, like that's low quality because it's like it's not fulfilling like a need that you have for connection, and for presence and for being attuned to each other. All humans have the need for connection, right? For having someone else support them. So I feel that a low quality friendship is one in which like these needs are not met.
So like, how connected do you feel
with this person? Yeah.
How do you feel with yourself when you're with this person?
Yeah, correct.
Right? So I feel that we throw around this word kind of loosely. It's called trauma bonding,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
The actual definition is actually quite scary and terrible. But a lot of us, we were like, oh, you know, you talk to your work colleagues, and then you're like, oh, I trauma bonded over like this vendor that I had so much trouble with, and then you're just talking shit about them. So for me, what I realized with a relatively new friendship that I have is that when we were bonding, it was over actually a bit of our flaws. And then it's like, oh, I severely overthink. Then it's like, oh my god, I severely overthink too. And then it's fun at the start because you're like, you see a mirror, and then you're like, oh, I know this feeling when I don't feel pulled to do something and I don't see the value in it, I procrastinate. And then then it weighs on your mind, and you have a lot of anxiety. Just do it. So, and then we bonded over that quite a bit, chancing upon this like article that said this kind of trauma bonding, you are sort of just enabling all these unhealthy patterns without realizing it. If the only reason why we have a feeling of closeness is because we are focusing on all these negative patterns that we have, then you're just enabling that. And it goes back to like, okay, what is your intention with having friends? Is your intention to, you know what, I want people to help me be a better person.
Yeah.
So when I read that and I reflected on it, I went, oh yeah, like it seems like that's all we are getting close about. So then internally I was like, okay, I don't want this dynamic to be like that. I want this dynamic to elevate.
Yeah.
And the strange thing was like the next time we met after I had that internally decided on that, it felt so weird. It felt, we were like, normally in the car we would chit chat a lot, and then like conversation just like keeps flowing, but it was so silent, and you could feel like the idea that you couldn't connect.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't want to connect on this already.
Yes.
In this way.
Yeah.
But then thankfully, I feel like it rejigged itself.
Yeah.
Maybe frequency change.
Yeah.
And then we were able to then talk a lot more about other things that were more, it felt like the friendship, the dynamic had expanded.
Yeah. And like, what a beautiful thing that is, right?
I think
for it to expand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you address it at all?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's a relatively new one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I feel like, from what you've told me about this person, it feels like she wouldn't take it the wrong way.
True.
Yeah,
that's true.
I feel like she might be open to sort of like, be reflective about the things as well. Yeah, it feels like, I get that vibe from just what you've told me about her.
Yeah. I think for me it's just because when you're navigating new friendships, it's just a bit more cautious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out T.
So I think the other thing for me is like, when it comes to like low quality friendships, it's not that it's a reflection of like the person itself, it's just the dynamic is maybe not quite matching up to a standard that I have for of how I want my friends to be, right? And like I think when it comes to talking about what most people perceive trauma bonding as, which is like to bond over like your shared trauma,
shared misery.
Yeah, shared misery actually. And I had a lot of relationships like that, especially with people at work, right? Yeah. So just because, well, you know, work is very stressful. You're placed in very stressful sort of like environments, and you also have to deal with people who may not necessarily be most supportive of like your growth. Yeah, and it's just it's just a dynamic that I eventually saw that I fell into, and you know, it's just like, you know, no sort of like bad feelings about the people who are in that dynamic, but it's just I'm also glad that I got out of it. Yeah, and I think to then give space for the evolution of that particular dynamic and see what happens after, right? Yeah, and sometimes I think it happens a lot at work, I feel, these kinds of relationships, just because there is an external thing that you can sort of like target your shadows towards, right? It's like, oh, my boss is such a beat, right? Like so and so behave in this way again. Did you hear what so and so said? It becomes this whole thing of like, I mean, yeah, it's really fun, you know, to be
miserable together.
To be be miserable together. B, I think I realized at some point I was just addicted to drama of it.
Oh.
Yeah, patterns.
Very different from the Maryam
patterns.
I
know, right?
Who are you?
No, but like it was because it was just there, and it was just like in my face all the time.
Would that then point to the company that you kept within the company?
The company that I kept within the
so
company.
Like it's like the people that end up being your workmates. You know, because you can't. I mean, we wish we could, but we can't choose who we work with.
Yeah, we can't choose who we work with. But
unless you have your own business, but that's a separate thing.
We chose to work together.
Lunar Communications and the Breath Expense chose to work with each other.
Also, like the third space.
And the third space, yes. But yes, you know, if you join a new place, you don't really have the opportunity to choose. So you just sort of, you know, end up with a certain group of people.
So I agree with that. But then I think in hindsight, and just based on the sorts of like learnings I've been through, it's also that like that was maybe a dynamic I needed to be a part of, and to learn to like extricate myself from, and to be part of it, and you know, be part of the toxicity.
I guess like we said, you know,
qualms about it, but
humans, we naturally want to seek out connection.
Yeah.
And if you go into this group, and especially if it's work and you're spending so much time with these people, you'll be like, of course you want to be part and feel like a sense of belonging. Yeah. But there will be moments when, if you take a step back, you're like, actually, I don't like myself.
Yeah.
When I'm with a certain like group of people.
Correct.
Because you contort yourself to fit in. Because we all want to fit in so badly sometimes.
Yeah.
And I mean, very few people will be like, actually, I don't want to hang out with these people.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I did not have that kind of capacity to be able to say, oh, I don't want to hang out with these people.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, I craved that connection because, like, I wanted to fit in. I wanted to do well at work. I wanted my colleagues to like me.
Fear of being ostracized if you're like, actually, I don't want to hang out today.
Correct. Yeah, there's that. And it...
The possible social blowback of not joining the group.
Correct.
Yeah.
And not partaking in the group dynamics. Yeah.
And the thing is that it does have social blowback, because I knew of somebody who recognized that she didn't quite feel like herself. Like, she was so far away from how she normally is with a certain group at work, like the lunch group, that when she then decided to, okay, you know what, I'm going to hang out with other people. This group then decided to like bitch about her behind her back.
Ouch.
And then it affected the work dynamic.
Yeah.
Because so it does have ramifications.
Yeah, so I feel like workplace relationships are tough because there is that sort of like or you need to keep the ties because of like professional relations, right? Like it's just like it just helps get the work done easier, better, you know. Yeah, but it's also like I did not yet have the knowledge or any sort of like self-reflective capabilities at that point to even start kind of like looking at myself. You know, it was always like, oh, it's always that person and never me, right? And it's always like the boss, but never me. But I think just having like had some years away now from those sorts of dynamic, just being able to see that on some level there was an external thing that sort of like manipulated us in a certain way, but it was also that, you know, like you know how like people come together and they just gotta like this is like the spiritual bit of it, the whole like coming together to fulfill like a soul contract. I don't really want to get into this so much, but it's
that maybe everything happens for a reason. Together with these particular people for a specific reason.
Yeah, and I think it's also very hard to see that when you are in that dynamic, you cannot see yourself at fault at all, right? Yeah, I think that's the hard part, that when you are finally able to say, like, my behavior was shitty, but like that doesn't make me any less of a human or a person.
I mean, because it's very easy to hate on somebody, and then you get another group of people, and then you're like, oh my god, you validate my hate, and then it goes into a spiral.
And then the whole, like, I mean, for me, like, it was my patterns of like being addicted to like drama, being addicted to gossip or whatever. So like all of those things that like I tried really hard to work on, and
you have been working on
it. Thank you.
So seems like now it's time to go on a little bonbon break. Insert jingle here.
So the bonbons that we have today are from Pulse Patisserie. So they have something like 9 flavors, which are teh halia, kopi siutai, kaya pandan, crunchy hazelnut, peach passion, chendol, eclair chocolate, raspberry fruit tart, and chocolate slice cake. But
I think this is chocolate slice cake.
You think
this
so?
Is pandan.
Okay, cool. I know one of it's teh halia because that's what he mentioned to me as he gave me the box.
Is it their signature?
Not really. I feel like they didn't really highlight like any particular flavor.
I love the cakes.
Yes, we love the cakes a lot.
Patisserie. And I'm a bit scarred by episode 2, so we'll see how.
Oh yes, well, we love the cakes, but not
so much the bonbons. Friends have gotten me Pulse cakes, and it was a really beautiful friendship memory that I have. And I in turn also bought Pulse for a lot of my other friends as well.
I think we got you the Lady Grey cake.
Is that what I'm thinking about? Exactly that memory, birthday memory.
Botanic Gardens picnic, Lady Grey cake. It was like a sweet moment.
Beautiful cake.
So, let's get on to trying our mystery flavors.
Ooh, sorry.
Like the fault is all mine, not the guy at the shop. He was perfect. He told me all the flavors, but of course I forgot. You know, things going on in my life.
Do you want to assume that this is pandan and go into that?
Sure, let's do that. You want to say?
Was it Steph who said like she likes the sound of all the?
Oh no, people do. People love the sound of like us sort of like chewing.
No, but I which is strange because when I listen to it when I'm editing, I'm like, who the hell wants to listen to all the sound?
Apparently people do. So you guys love like the sound of us chewing bonbons.
Oh my god, we should just have like, we set up a Patreon, right? And it's just the bonbon eating, because I actually cut out quite a bit of our bonbon eating moments because there's just a lot of silences and just so like, okay, if you all love it, let's just start a Patreon and all you audio freaks can get your freak on.
This is pandan kaya. And it's great. Very subtle hint. Okay, so I'm not a super big fan of like the pandan kaya flavor in a sort of like a Western concept. Do you know what I mean? Like
as in the typical Singaporean local flavor is kaya pandan. There's also no such thing as pandan kaya or kaya pandan because you must have
both pandan. You must have the pandan and the kaya, right?
Yes.
And the kaya is like perfume by pandan, essentially. But this has a very subtle sort of like pandan. It's just nice.
You know what it reminds me of?
Yeah.
You know the road cake?
Rich and good.
Rich and good?
Good and rich. Yeah, that's
I
rich
know that's
roll.
rich.
Yeah. I know the one that you're talking about. So, pandan kaya done. Very interesting flavor.
Love it.
And the dark chocolate is really nice.
It's not too overly bitter that it's a bit, you know, it can be a bit, I would say painful on the tongue, but
Yeah.
it leaves a bit of a sensation on the tongue when it's a bit too bitter,
Okay for you.
but it's fine. This is really good.
So good start. I'm so excited now. Okay, so I hope this is teh halia.
It's got macaroon.
Yeah. So I think like the
Okay.
fun thing is that these are all like very interesting shapes.
I think we do need to, for those who are just listening to us and not watching
Right.
the video, I think we need to describe it a little bit.
So this is like a very pale peach macaroon.
Maybe it's peach.
Oh, there was like a passion fruit. Yeah. It is a peach passion.
Sweet for me.
Yeah, me too. It's like a
Wow.
white chocolate shell.
A bit too sweet for me.
Yeah, but peach flavor.
Peachy.
I mean, it is what it is. Peach passion. So the pandan kaya was, yeah.
Lovely.
Let's move on to this little orange pillow. And our final one.
Teh halia, come on.
Teh halia. Amazing. Oh, this is great.
Oh wow.
This is so good.
I'm glad we didn't start with this. Because we have blown everything else out of the water, which it already is doing. Ooh,
Right?
the ginger.
The ginger
the
is-
halia.
Yeah. So that was my favorite out of the 5.
I still go with kaya for me for the first favorite.
But because that's never my
No,
favorite of
no,
choice,
no.
it's that's number 2. And then the other 3 are like kind of on par with each other.
I'll think
Oh,
the-
actually, I like the chocolate cake just for its like
Yeah.
cuteness.
and then maybe the orange and then the peach. For me.
I think like peach before orange for me. Oh, but the peach was
way
too sweet. Yeah,
Way
that's
too
true.
sweet.
Yeah. But I think like sometimes that's a problem with like fruit flavors. They tend to get a bit sweet.
Just to overcompensate because it's sour.
Yeah.
Okay, so our ranking:
So what have we had so far?
Mr. Bucket,
Mr. Bucket,
Nesto,
Nesuto.
Dark Gallery, Lemuel.
Oh, Lemuel had some pretty nice flavors. I think, and now Pulse.
I don't know why Mr. Bucket is still so much like a favorite for me. I don't know whether it's just because it's like the first one.
Yeah, and I feel like I've been sort of like comparing all of our experiences of the bonbons at least to the flavors that we got from Mr. Bucket, right? Because it was like,
You always remember your first. Okay, for me, I think it's Mr. Bucket,
same.
Dark Gallery, this one, Pulse, Lemuel, and then Nesto.
Oh.
Okay, so Bonbon break over. So Maryam, where are you traveling to?
Oh, what a question. I feel like where you traveling has become such a commonplace sort of like question to connect. But it's like a distraction question. Oh, what are you distracting yourself with? That's what I'm hearing when people when people ask that question.
Right.
Maybe I've experienced that people using it to like change the subject when things are getting a little too, when the conversation might be getting too intense or too personal, then they're like, oh, where are you traveling next? Right?
No, because I did have this conversation with someone where, again, it was like the conversation went into a bit of a lull, and then like to sort of like jolt it back up.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I was like, hey, so where are you traveling?
Yes. Yeah,
And just
yeah.
like when she said that, I went like, oh my god, Maryam. And the topic that then followed from there was a bit, it felt a bit worrying to me for this person, or actually just in general, because she was saying, if you don't have a trip planned, it feels like there's nothing to look forward to.
Yeah. So this is like, I think you mentioned it the other time, and I was a bit like, oh my god, yes, this is why. You put so much into like going away from like your life that you're not like, where is the paying attention to your life, right?
How present or not present are you with life currently? That is the only other thing that you are looking forward to.
Yeah,
that is like
yeah.
bringing fulfillment.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This was like, I think a few years back when I was going through this like existential moment. When are we not having it? But anyway.
First thought, when are we not having an existential moment?
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to go travel to this place. I'm just going to spend like a year abroad. And then I was thinking to myself, what am I running away from? Because you can put me in a completely different geographical location. The issues that I'm not dealing with will still be there.
Yeah.
And is it like unfulfillment that I feel that I'm not dealing with, and I'm just trying to change the external environment just to feel like it's a change.
Yeah.
When it's purely just a distraction from me not feeling fulfilled in my current life, in my current circumstances.
Yeah, and like it's not like travel doesn't bring you new experiences and all that, which is fair enough. Like I think there was maybe it was like after COVID or something, my relationship with like traveling changed. Like, and I wanted to definitely be more intentional about how I traveled, right? And I think like before COVID, it was like, always like, escape to somewhere, right? And like the idea of like that idyllic escape, right? But also it's like tourism actually has lots of like very devastating costs,
yes,
right, on local populations. Tourist dollars come in, right? There's a lot of impact of like travel that's not really discussed, right? It's always just like the glamour of it, right? And you know, I feel like, and it's not that I'm not traveling or like I'm going on a trip next week. So it's like, how are you intentional with your travel, right? Like for me now, it's like my traveling is for really like learning new things. Like if I'm going to learn about, like cultivate new experiences, right? If it's like a spiritual experience, whether it's like a something new that I'm like interested in, or it's like visiting someone that is there, and maintaining that relationship. And that's almost like necessary for me, right? And these are just my standards, and of course these might, like my sort of like relationship with this might change down the line, but I've always felt a little hesitant, but it's just like, what are the actual costs, right, beyond like you paying for the holiday, right?
If you're kind of feeling a bit like recoiling, don't worry. I don't feel like I'm as intentional with my travels as you. But I just sort of like, hey, I feel a pull. I want to do this. I want to go see this.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so
I'll see this with my friend, and then like, okay. If we move from low quality friendships to high quality friendships, you have a new friend.
I do have a new friend, and I'm so excited. We've known about each other, or like we've sort of like been
in each other's orbit.
In each other's orbit for a while, but like we had coffee for the first time yesterday.
Who asked who out?
He asked me out.
Okay.
Yeah.
But purely is friend.
Yeah, because like I think he saw our reel. And he was like, I want to talk to you about this. I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. Yeah.
Why you never call me,
I'm sure he would. Yeah.
Yeah, boy, be coming together somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So with this person and I, we see each other at our like basically like one of the things that I do. We share the same space with what he does, and we've seen each other at work, and we know that we know of each other. We've heard about each other, but like at work, it's also very difficult for us to have a
to really connect.
Yeah, to really connect and have a conversation. It's always just in passing. And just like asking how you are and all of that, but we've never really actually sat down together.
So he saw our reel.
Yeah.
And then he was like, hey
girl, hey. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just really glad to connect with another person, and I think we both knew that we were into the same sort of things, right? Connecting in an intentional way. We are both very like kind of like have a similar wavelength type sort of thing. Also, it's quite funny because like it came out yesterday. Again, we were talking about invisible strings, right? So it came out yesterday that he used to work in a university, and so did I.
The same university?
No, different.
Okay.
But then I think he knew. Like I think we were talking about some stuff, and we were like, oh, we might know similar people, or like people would know. People in our orbits would kind of like know each other. Yeah, which is quite interesting.
Invisible string.
Yeah, invisible string.
Okay, but how do you define as connecting intentionally?
It's like when you are able to be fully yourself, when you're able to find points of connection, and not just like a single point, but like a few multiple points of connection, right? And feel like met there. Like the condition is like, oh, this person may not necessarily hold the same views, but like feel met by another person. Yeah. And I think it's also in the stuff that we talked about, right? Like it was the first time that we were hanging out, but we were sharing quite a bit, you know,
and going really deep.
Yeah, I mean going quite deep. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, which I feel feels very nice, because sometimes it takes years or like a long time before people feel comfortable to be able to just like open up to each other like that.
Yeah. It requires each person to be very comfortable with themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
And then with my whole self, I'm meeting you.
Yeah.
And that feels so much richer than that thing that happened and that shit on that person.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And like it was more like that. It was like, oh, here's me and here is you, and then we're meeting here, and we were like, at the end we were like, oh, I think like we like this.
Wow.
Yeah, and like we shook on it. Yeah.
So cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like the baseline intention of I want to connect with you. I want to know you.
Yeah, I want to know you, and like it feels very pure in the sense.
Ow!
You know, like it feels really nice to make a new friend. And I like honestly, I credit this podcast a lot. This show. Yeah, it has sort of like made me a lot more reflective about friendship and how I also connect with people, right? And how I relate to people, and just sort of like being aware of like my own biases, right? Or like my own what are my own needs in regard to a friendship, right? Yeah. When I bring you into my world, when I open that space for you to come into my world, rather like what am I bringing to it, right? And like, or can I bring my full self into it, or is it like, do I keep you at a certain distance?
How much of the whole of me can be met by the whole of you? If possible or not.
And again, no one relationship or dynamic is perfect. I think I always like relationships or friendships where both people can be equally reflective, because that's who I am, right? And or like that's who I am in this present moment. So I need the other, like very often I need my friends to be able to be self-reflective, right? And to be sensitive to like my face.
What?
Like, you know, like if my face changes, or like
your facial expressions.
My facial expressions,
right?
Yeah,
okay.
like to be like sensitive to maybe like what I'm feeling, or
Again, that question of like, why you think so much? But it's having had experience, or maybe even living through the pandemic. There were moments when now I'm looking at like, oh, I want to live with more intention.
Yeah.
I want to, be a bit more mindful with how I'm spending my time, who I'm spending my time with.
Yeah.
And because friends are such a large part of our lives, inadvertently it then comes down to being intentional with who I spend my time with.
Yeah.
And so this was, and for me, who is a recovering people pleaser, who needs to learn how to uphold my boundaries. There was this incident where an acquaintance from a while back suddenly sort of sent me a message, and I was very excited because I did at one period of time really want to get to know this person as a friend. It's like, hey, you seem to vibe well, you seem interesting, I want to get to know you better. Then it tapered off and didn't really pan out how I hoped, and it was like silence for quite a long time until the person sort of just like dropped me a message about something that they saw. And as the conversation progressed, I was sort of like feeling in, and moments, and actually I felt like the conversation felt very contrived. Like it felt very forced. It felt like there was so much effort, and I was like, you know what? This is not how it should feel like. Because I have met people and the connection is good and it's fast and it's easy. And sometimes maybe the resistance is telling me something about this particular dynamic.
Yeah.
So internally deciding this is not how I want to spend my time, my energy, cultivating a new friendship, internally noticing it and saying, it's fine, it's okay, I don't need to pursue this anymore.
Yeah. When we like hold ourselves to that new standard, right? Because like you were saying, like, okay, I choose not to have this anymore. It's like what that's saying is that it's like I am choosing something else that's better for me, right? I'm choosing like healthier patterns. I'm choosing like healthier ways to relate to people beyond just like, shooting the shit in over like something. I think you mentioned something about like it felt a little mean. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, like in order to like the jokes that they were making, like for me to sort of play together with it, had to be a bit cutting.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be that way. I didn't want to, I didn't want to partake. And so I didn't.
Yeah. And I think like it's also important to put out there that like we are by no means saints. But what I've appreciated always is that we've sort of been able to keep each other intentional about the way that we relate to each other, right? And and I think it's just that because we've already made that choice internally, right? And then like it's these kinds of like new connections that are coming to our lives.
And also our friendship origin story was based off us wanting to be more intentional with our lives and in general. And this sort of happened then our friendship happened from there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's always important then to start with that intention, right? And
why are you friends?
Yeah, why are you friends?
Do you want to have friends? Who do you want to be with your friends?
I think it's just like having to be an adult about things and just choosing better for yourself each time. Yeah. Because like how you approach like one area of your life is also how you approach like other parts of your life, right?
You want to live in alignment and authenticity. You can't just be one way in one part of your life and then not in the rest, right?
Yeah.
You want to show up equally in all those areas.
Yeah, and especially with friends who you get the power to choose who they are, right? And who comes into your life and who does not, right? Like, I mean, with family it's different. Like, you actually have to deal with.
You can't choose your family.
You can't really choose your family, but you can choose your friends.
Your friends are your chosen family.
Yeah, I agree with that. Part of it is also like making space to meet your friends where they're at, right? And each time, right? And like, and allowing for like a freshness to come into the dynamic each time you meet them, so that it doesn't get it doesn't remain in, say, like an unhealthy pattern or dynamic, right? Because sometimes like when you get used to that friend being the person, say like you get used to a certain dynamic with a particular friend, and like when you shift out of that dynamic, right, you also want your relationship with that friend to like come out of that dynamic as well, right? Yeah, so I think it's important to also approach, like, to give space for people to change and evolve, right? And be able to try and meet that person when you care about them. Yeah.
And to offer grace if you realize that, you know what, maybe it's okay that this is no longer in your life. Maybe this person has, like, my friend is changing. I can see that. I'm so not used to it because, you know, you're used to a previous version of who they are, but sort of allowing that space and adjustment to sort of just like feel into this new dynamic. Not cling on to how it used to be.
Yes.
And yeah, having that spaciousness.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that we talked about is that, like, if you don't have this sort of like awareness, like you might just like wake up one day and realize, oh, this person has changed so much since the time that you got to know them, right? But then actually the person has been changing right in front of you. It's just that you may not be like, you may not have the awareness to like see them like do the change, because it's like people seldom change overnight. They're like just like progressively like changing little by little.
Yeah.
Right?
So maybe after watching this episode, we don't want people to be like, oh my god, and start looking at all their friends and auditing, and then like, they don't serve me anymore, and then that's not the intention at all.
Because it's not that, like, I don't think that the idea is that relationships should be transactional, right? It's like we're not even saying that, right? I think it's just like sort of like looking at the relationships that you have, right? And seeing the dynamics for what they are, right? Because it's not like we don't indulge in a bit of gossip, because we do, right? Definitely not saints, not experts on, like, I don't think we are like experts on friendships or like the best friend ever that you could possibly have, right? Only to some people, but not to others, right? But it's
two friends.
I think it's just
spending Friday night together, talking and sharing, and hoping that you don't feel so alone. Honestly, that's what I've been feeling about this podcast.
I think like that it's important for people to not feel isolated about like the experiences that they have about friendships, right? And like if
we are just offering a different perspective.
Our
perspective.
perspective, right? And like you might have a different one, and we would love definitely to hear if you've got a different perspective or take on this. And for sure we want to know what your definitions are of like high quality friendships or low quality friendships, right?
Share your low quality friendship experiences. Share your high quality, friendship experiences in the comments. Let us know.
In the comments. You can DM us. Are your DMs open?
No. Wait, as in IG?
IG.
So share with us your low quality friendship experiences, your high quality friendship experiences, all in the comment section.
I love that you're pointing to me when you say high quality.
And we'll see you at the next one. Bye.
Bye.